Okay, welcome to, excuse me, welcome to a lecture for Ohlone College, American Government. This is our last week of class. I'm sorry I didn't give you a little lecture last week on California politics, but I think what I had was enough. I just want to give you a little bit of help on your research assignments, okay? So this lecture is titled Public Policy and Scientific Method, and here we go. So great work, right? We made it to the end. Here we are. That's great. Our last unit is using the tools of scientific inquiry to think about public policy. You will pick a realm of public policy and work on it either alone or together. If you work in a group, we have Wikipedia-style pages that we are working on. Be sure to print the requirements of this assignment. I want to see it in your notebook. If you keep track of your work as you're going, I want to see that as well. I love to see extra policy paperwork in your notebook. It'll help you get a really nice, if your notebook's really fat, I'll even give you a little bit extra credit, okay? So keep track of your notebook, of what you do, and if you have some nice policy paper stuff in there, I'll give you some extra credit. Okay, how can science help with public policy? Well, in popular discourse, most policy discussions are gone over with very few reference to actual facts. People say they have facts. They love saying they have facts, but they just say facts and then they don't necessarily have any reasons that those facts are true, right? So that's a concern. So that's one of the main assignment. The goal of this assignment is to come up with, to practice researching facts. Basically, that's the goal. Okay. So for example, ask yourself this question. Answer it true or false. Crime today is much higher than historical averages. I hear people say all the time, crime is so high these days, the sky is falling, crime, right? Is that true or false? People make the claim. They say it, as Radiohead says, just because you say it doesn't make it true. Of course, they say just because you feel it, but I think it's funny this way. Okay, well, let's take a look. FBI, right? FBI, right here at the bottom of the page. This ends at, I'll show you the full thing. Whoops, wrong way. There we go. This ends over here at 2014, but look, it peaks somewhere in the 90s, early 90s. It was going up since the 60s, and it's been going down since the 90s. So when people say, oh, crime these days, it's so high, blah, 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 they're just wrong. And they get mad at me sometimes when I say, it's a common misperception that crime is so high these days. Fact is, crime is, well, historically, I don't know. Look at this. It puts it right about in the middle. That's it. That's it. There's no more to this story than here's the chart. This is where crime's at. So if you're doing something in criminal justice, look, I already started you off with some of your research. So interesting, huh? There's lots of things that people think that turn out we don't have a whole lot of evidence, right? So we can play lots of little games here. People think X is true, but in fact, it's Y. But rather than me do it all for you, I want you to go out and try to find the answers for yourself. It's good practice for being researchers and being critical consumers of information about political life. It's a research project. The point here is not to get it perfect, but to get practice in making these kinds of judgments, okay? So, two key concepts here, and I'll just take my, there we go, take my ugly face away so you don't have to see me while I'm talking about this one. Multi-causality and triangulation. These are going to help for both of your policy papers. So, multi-causality, this comes up in all types of science. It's just the idea that there's no one single factor or variable that explains everything that we see at any point, right? So, we like to think like, oh, if we just get the policy right, everything is going to be great. It definitely does not work that way, okay? So lots of things matter. This idea is called multi-causality, okay? So let's take an example, education. We can debate the right education policy until we are blue in the face. But when considering educational outcomes, The first and most important predictor of student success is parental level of education. Over and over and over again, people find parental level of education. After that comes socioeconomic status, quality of teaching, geographical location, individual student work ethic, and finally, in the end, policy choices about how to teach. So I'm back now for you. See the point here on multi-causality. There's a lot of things that matter. When we're thinking about public policy, we want to make sure we're getting a complete view and looking at all the different things that matter. Okay, second really important idea of social science that I want you to be using, triangulation. There's a nice Wikipedia page that links you to how triangulation is used in the social sciences, but the basic idea is this. We get a better picture of what's going on if we look at evidence from multiple sources and from multiple points of view. And I don't mean 2, I mean like 5, I mean 7, I mean 10, okay? Now, we only have so much time, so, you're going to keep in the 2, 3, 4 area just because we only have so much time. I get that, no problem. But, it's not just about this class, really. It's more about, well, here's a set of tools and techniques that you can use and take with you to be a critical consumer of information about political life. So, we want to make sure we're looking at evidence from conservative and liberal sources, academic research, not Fox News and Huffington Post. It's fine to start there. They'll have some ideas. You can follow up on them. Great, no problem. But if you're citing news sources in your paper, you're going down the wrong path. I want to see you using my research help and tips website, right? Here, research help and tips, sorry, not website, page, okay? Make sure you're using that, and when you're doing your triangulations, you're using RAND, AEI, American Enterprise Institute, Heritage Foundation. Those are your more righty sources. And then on the left, we have, Brookings, Economic Policy Initiatives. I don't know, I threw something else up there too. Okay? So triangulation is basically just the idea that if by getting multiple points of view, so think of a triangle at the top of the triangle. Where am I? Ooh, there we are. Top of the triangle, right? You have a claim, okay? And then you draw your triangle this way, okay? And on the bottom is all your different, on the bottom of that triangle is the different research that you use, okay? So let's take a look at this. Triangulation on gun violence, okay? There's 2 links here, but let's take a quick look at it. Oh, that's a chat. Oh, that's a different one. Oh, I didn't, I closed those windows. Where'd I go? Here we go. Little slow. Come on, computer. Oh, no. Oh, there you go. Okay, it's popping up. It's being slow. And then this one as well. So these are 2 write-ups. One from Guns and Ammo, which, big surprise, is a little more conservative. And one from Slate, which is a little more liberal, okay? Now, what happened was Obama ordered the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, to do a study on gun violence, just in general, gun violence, okay? So this is, like I said, this is Guns and Ammo, so they love guns, right? They're crazy. And this is their write-up of the CDC report. 1, armed citizens are less likely to be injured than an attacker. That's true. If you have a gun, kind of helps. Defensive use of guns are common. This one I'm going to return to. They say it's common. Well, look at this big estimate. At most, 3 million is probably too high. So I'll show you why later. And they say maybe 500,000 legitimate uses of guns per year. Mass shootings and accidental firearm deaths account for a small fraction of gun-related deaths. Depending on what policy you use, you might get a reduction in gun violence or not. Turns out that background checks will reduce gun violence. Assault rifle bans and gun-free zones won't. Okay. Let's see. And the vast majority of gun-related deaths are suicides. That's absolutely true. Now let's look at Slate. They don't disagree that much, but they give us a slightly, but like, okay, guns and ammo, they write it up. Okay, like most of what they wrote up was true, but they also just left some things out. So let's get a completer picture. The United States rate of gun violence is 19.5 times higher than the rate in other high-income countries. So we have a lot of gun violence compared to similar countries. Most types of gun violence are going down. I already showed you the stats on general crime, so we shouldn't be surprised about this. Over 300 million guns total. One thing that Guns and Ammo didn't want to tell you, there it is, handguns. Handguns are responsible for the vast majority of gun violence. What do they have here? Almost 75%. Mass shootings aren't the problem, so they agree. Gun suicide, not homicide, they agree. Guns are used for self-defense. Let's see. And a couple other little things, right? So what's the point here? Well, some of these things we can feel pretty confident about. Most types of gun violence are getting better, not worse. But, we need to have a complete picture by looking at both sides. So this was a write-up of the study done by the Center for Disease Control. So anyways, there you go. Here's another one. I don't have quite enough time to talk about it here, but, does immigration cost the U.S. economy jobs? Well, go follow up on this link, and you will see that you can just Google left and right agree, immigrants don't take American jobs. This was a write-up from the, the National Review, which is a very conservative magazine, and they're telling me, look, immigration doesn't really take jobs from Americans. There's some other negative consequences. It's not like immigration is like, perfect. But whether it's legal or undocumented, doesn't matter. Immigrants tend to start businesses at higher rates. They contribute to the economy, actually creating jobs overall. Losing jobs to China is a different story from immigration as well, so you want to sort of keep those two things separate. But if you go to this piece, you'll see a ton of triangles, right? Well, one, here's a good triangle. It's a conservative news outlet arguing that immigration is overall beneficial to the economy. Conservatives aren't hardcore, immigration, letting more immigrants in is not something they're giving us straight numbers here, right? They have a lot of sources from left and right in this one, and they're also honest that it's not all good news. Okay. So how to use triangulation in your paper, and this is where we'll leave off. If all the numbers are pretty close together, you can feel pretty confident and just report them as is. If estimates vary or there's some disagreements, then say, estimates vary, and report both numbers or both claims. So, just keep that in mind. But if something sounds fishy, maybe it is. So, for example, in the CDC report on gun violence we looked at a minute ago, there's a wide range in the estimate of legitimate defensive gun use. What legitimate defensive gun use means is someone breaks into my house and I chase them off with my gun. That would be legitimate, right? Illegitimate would be going up to my neighbor and waving my gun at him because I'm mad. So, notice this estimate, somewhere between 500,000 and 3 million. That's big variation, right? Okay, how can we sift through this and try to get some evidence for one of these numbers being a little bit better than the other? Well, if you look at the research, the larger number was an estimation based on self-reports, i.e., have you ever used a gun to defend yourself? Thing is, people commonly overestimate how often things happen and sometimes count events that were not legitimate defensive gun use. Okay, so follow up here, but think about this. What if we asked, I'm running out of time, what if we asked a bunch of frat brothers, how many sexual partners they have? And they say, oh, dude, it's so many girls, right? That's